Hey, welcome back to Aglow Generations. I'm Janae Lovern, and I'm your host for the Aglow Generations podcast, and I'm also the director of Aglow Generations here at Aglow International Headquarters. It is so good to be back with you guys. The goal for these podcasts is to have them released once a week, and so far we're getting that. It's just we're not quite on the same day every week. So the goal going forward is that they would be published on Tuesdays, and hopefully we get there soon. I apologize that I think the last one is going out towards the end of the week, and so Lord willing, after I record this one, we'll get it up and on the podcast by Tuesday. Thank you for all your continued prayers. Thank you for everyone who has emailed me to say hello and introduce yourself. I love getting to know all of you, and you might have met me as Director of Conference Operations here at Aglow, which I still also have that role as well. Usually I am so blessed to be able to run into all of you guys at conferences, and in the meantime, we are getting ready and excited for our next conference in Dallas, Texas in November. And I hope that you all will join us there. And it's going to be a fabulous time. Registration opens April 1st. So I'm using this channel a little bit to multitask. You know, multitasking is good. And, registration does open in the next couple weeks. And if you do your registrations by phone, there is a good chance that I will be on the other end of the phone. So hopefully I'll get to know you guys in more ways than one. Let's talk about waiting. This is a subject or topic, I suppose, that is not my favorite. I'm just going to put that out there right at the beginning. I'm not good at waiting. I don't know about the rest of you, but I don't like to wait. I like things to just happen. And that is not always how the Lord works in this world that we live in and in our relationship with Him. There is many times that He asks us to wait for things. And usually when we come to the other side of the waiting, at least for me, I can look back and see how God was moving in whatever the circumstances were while I was waiting. So there is such joy and, fulfillment in coming on to the other side of the waiting. But while we're in the waiting, it can feel like a giant unknown season. And while the Lord is with us in the waiting, it can also be hard. So let's not pretend that it's not. I don't want to pretend that it's not. There are things in my life that I am currently waiting for the Lord to move, whether it's, His will that something happen or not. So sometimes waiting means waiting until something happens. And sometimes waiting means waiting while the Lord moves in our hearts and changes our hearts so that we can be accepting that maybe what we were waiting for isn't in His plan. And that kind of waiting can be really hard. But I love what I saw. I saw this post on Instagram, and the audio of the Instagram reel was not this. It was somebody in Instagram using the audio from this pastor at Life Church. Pastor Bob is who is credited with it. So this is not these are not my words, but I love them. So Pastor Bob talks about waiting and what it means in Hebrew. And he says that the Hebrew word for wait means to be intertwined. And he explains it as like a three-legged race, being tied up with another person and having to get in sync with each other as you run from the starting line to the finish. And he says that's what wait is in Hebrew. You tie your life up with God. You feel when he feels, and you pause when he pauses, or you feel when he pauses, and you pause when he pauses. You run when he runs. And let's see. And it's those who intertwine, who wait, who tie their life up with God's, they renew their strength. Isaiah 40:31 does not mean, when it says wait, does not mean sitting and looking at God, but actually intertwining and growing stronger so that they will not grow tired or weary. And I love that. I love the image that he gives, or the visual that he gives of a three-legged race. Most of us know what that is. If you are watching or listening to the podcast and you're from another country where maybe you don't have that sort of game, it's usually at like get-togethers or not fairs, but usually I did them at like church picnics and family reunions. And what it is you have a race and you find a partner and you tie a string or something around, let's say I would tie it around my right leg and their left leg, and you tie it together, and then you run from the starting line to the finish line, basically using three legs because two of them are tied together. So if you aren't in sync with each other, you're probably going to fall. And while that can be humorous for those watching, it's in getting in sync with each other that you're able to accomplish the race. So that was just such a wonderful way to depict the idea of waiting. And another person talked about it like being intertwined, like the strands in a braid of hair. And just that image of being not only intertwined with God, but like that close and intimate with God. It makes waiting just more special, I suppose. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys today. And, let's all go about our next few days just really meditating on that idea of waiting. And if there's something in your life that you're waiting for, may you, be praying with the Lord and about what you're waiting for, of course, but also remembering that in that moment, that whatever you're waiting for hasn't happened, you're able to be intertwined with the Lord and learn what that means, so that as you go about your days in your future, you can be in that place of intimacy where the waiting isn't as hard as maybe it was before. So I'm taking that to heart for what I'm waiting for, and just seeing the specialness of this season and learning to be intertwined with the Lord. So I just wanted to share that. And also I wanted to take the time to, first, the goal with the podcasts is that not only are they up once a week, but this is a really new project for not just Aglow Generations, but Aglow International in general. We've never had a podcast here at headquarters before. And so we're all learning and experimenting. And not that you guys are guinea pigs necessarily, but we're all learning how this works and what works for Aglow and for all of you out in the field. So this podcast, I'm hoping, will be a bit shorter than some of the other ones, because I'm really trying to gauge what the length of time is that you guys want to listen to these podcasts. And, if you have any ideas, suggestions, feedback, anything, you're more than welcome to email me or call me. My email is janaelovern@aglow.org, and I would love to hear from you. So definitely feel free. Another thing I wanted to share was a vision, I suppose, that the Lord had given me for Generations in 2021. And at that time, I was, of course, still in the conference department, as I still am. but I was only in the conference department. And during a day of staff prayer at Aglow, every Tuesday we gather as staff and pray. And if you have anything that you would like us to pray for, you can definitely email me as well. I would love to contend with you in prayer. And anyway, so on this day of staff prayer, my heart was just really stirred, and the Lord gave me a vision while we were praying. That doesn't always happen for me. It definitely happens for others. But this one I wrote down, and, it was definitely something the Lord put strongly on my heart. But just at that time, for whatever reason, I don't think that the vision was necessarily for, well, looking back now, I can see that the vision that the Lord gave me was definitely one that he was giving me for the future. And so I put it in a journal, and the journal ended up on a bookshelf. And it wasn't until last month in February, I was getting rid of the bookshelf. And so while I was getting rid of it, I was cleaning it and going through some of my journals. I'm definitely a journal girl, so I have a lot of them. But this one was a journal that I had bought that I really, really liked. And I realized I hadn't used it that much. I don't know how it ended up on my shelf, but it did. And so I pulled it out to see to see how much of the journal was empty that I could still use. And when the journal opened, it opened to this page that I had written this vision on. And as I read it, to be honest, tears just started coming out of my eyes. And I realized that the Lord had me write this down for that moment and for this season. And so because I feel like it's for Aglow Generations, I wanted to take the time to read it to you guys and just share it with you so that we can all share in this vision together and see what the Lord is doing in Aglow as we move forward. So it says, I had a vision of multitudes of young people. I only knew them as the generations standing before us. We were in a field and had just finished the wheat harvest. We had bags strapped across our bodies that we, the women, had picked up from the shafts of wheat left over in the fields. This wheat wasn't the main harvest, the obvious harvest, but this was the leftovers, the sustaining wheat that would feed multitudes of families. We held this wheat in the bags on our bodies. It was precious to us. It would feed our families and get us through winter. But these multitudes of generations stood at the edges of the fields. They couldn't or maybe didn't know how to come into the field, how to pick up the wheat in the field that would sustain them. I heard the words, "Their hearts are open, but their baskets are empty." I looked, and they all, with their hungry faces, looked at us in the field and held out real empty baskets. We looked at our day's labor that was so heavy on our backs. This was to sustain us, to share with our families, with those we love. Suddenly, we all began to take pieces from our bags, from the wheat we had of the harvest, and began to fill the generations' baskets. As we did so, their faces began to smile. They weren't hungry anymore. Then one young person turned, and behind her was a child. She took the child's hand and walked her into the field. As the child stepped into the field, fresh new wheat began to grow. The child giggled and motioned to others to come. And suddenly, hundreds of children ran into the field, and where once was an empty field that had just harvested all it held, was springing forth with brand new wheat ready for another harvest. So may the Lord let that come to fulfillment in whatever way that he has planned. But I really feel like that was talking to, well, it was for Aglow, and it was for Aglow Generations, but it was also for the church, God's children as a whole, that he's not only calling younger generations in and calling them to himself, but he's also calling us as Christians, as believers, as his children, to be the ones that we have this special gift from the Lord this wheat that we've reaped from the fields, and he's calling us to share it with the younger generations. And in doing so, we will see our harvest fields, our fields, begin to grow with new harvest. And in saying that, of course, I mean with new believers and, expanding the kingdom of God. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. And, I just hope that you have a great week, and whatever the Lord's doing in your life, I just pray that he blesses you and keeps his face shining upon you. So may you go forward and be blessed. And I hope to catch up with you again next week on the podcast. Bye for now.